Hi, everyone, and welcome to this installment of GreenFaith's Flash Training in Organizing Skills. I'm Lynet Otieno, and I'm the Communications Manager for GreenFaith. Today, I'm interviewing Reverend Fletcher Harper about how to choose a target for grassroots organizing. I'm looking forward to this, Reverend Fletcher.
I am too, Lynette. It's good to see you. And hello to everyone. I'm Fletcher Harper. I'm GreenFaith's executive director. And today we're going to talk about choosing a target for your public action, because knowing what you're asking for and from whom you're asking it, and how you're going to do that is at the center of organizing. That's how we as people of faith ask for what we know is right.
Thank you, Reverend Fletcher. So, can you tell us more about what you mean by target?
Sure, I'll give a couple of examples. So, several years ago, we were very involved in the fossil fuel divestment movement, and an important part of that movement was demonstrating and establishing its credibility and affirming that. And one of the ways to do that was to get well-known and or well-respected institutions to make a divestment commitment. We were very fortunate that Beth Ackerman, a GreenFaith fellow, was an active member at the time of Riverside Church, which is a very, very well-known church in New York City, and was very actively involved in the civil rights movement and the anti-nuclear movement. The church has a large public profile. And so Beth decided, and we with her, that to make that the target was a smart thing to do, because we knew that it would attract media coverage. That church is viewed as an opinion leader in many ways, and so its commitment would have a greater impact. I think it's also important to to say right from the start that we know a certain number of religious people aren't very comfortable with the word target. It's an organizing term. I would think of it as, who is it that you want to influence and why? So the Riverside Church is one example of how we think about this and why.
That's very interesting. And we make demands of these targets. So, can you share more about how grassroots groups determine what the collective demands are and what our global community is demanding from the world? Like relying on grassroots communities to organize in their own contexts?
Sure. We think that it's very important for religious groups to articulate demands that are based on our values and that are very specific. Religious and spiritual communities around the world may use different words, but we're committed to compassion, to love, to justice, to harmony. And we know that fossil fuels now destroy those because of severe climate change impacts. And so the demands, the principles that we're articulating globally are the importance of an end to all new fossil fuel projects. Many people rightly add new deforestation projects onto that, because that's also an important contributor to the climate emergency. We talk about the importance of a fair, equitable phase out of existing fossil fuel production. We know that not every country, not every region has the same capacity to make this transition at the same speed. And as religious and spiritual people, we want to make sure that those regions, countries that need more time for humanitarian reasons have that time, and that those countries that have a greater capacity to make the change quickly need to do that. And then the third thing is a massive commitment and a generous commitment to a just and equitable transition. We know that not all countries are at all equally responsible for the climate crisis. We know that global North countries, Western Europe, the United States, and others bear responsibility for the lion's share of historic emissions. And we believe that those countries need to contribute and commit generously to support a just transition as we move through the process. So these three principles of an immediate end to new fossil fuel projects and deforestation, a fair and equitable phase out, and a generous commitment to a just transition, those positions, those principles reflect our religious values.
Very good. Thank you, Reverend Fletcher. So lastly, what's one tip you've learned about choosing a target in the GreenFaith community that you can share with the public and our followers?
Be bold. Do not be afraid. Do not be faint of heart. So we are part of a coalition of groups that is putting pressure on the world's largest asset manager, BlackRock, which is also one of the world's largest sources of investment capital for the fossil fuel industry and for deforestation projects. And this company likes to maintain an image as an environmental and climate leader. But the reality is that they are not doing nearly enough. And so we've partnered with the coalition that's called BlackRock's Big Problem to put pressure on them. Many people would say, well, that's the biggest asset manager in the world. That's too big a target. Our sense is you need to be brave and courageous and have the courage of your convictions. It's also smart, we think, for religious groups. Another tip is, find strong, good coalitions and be part of that. The way that we win is by working together. So I would say be bold, find good coalitions, and lead with your religious and moral values.
Thank you, Reverend Fletcher. So thank you for joining together for this installment of GreenFaith's Flash Training in Organizing Skills. And because the earth and all the people are sacred and at risk, GreenFaith is building a worldwide multi-faith climate and environmental movement. Together, our members create communities that transform ourselves, our spiritual institutions, and society to protect the planet and create a compassionate, loving, and just world. Together, we are going to do it. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Fletcher.
Thanks, Lynet.